Glickman checking in from Portland. Marnie,
Hi, everyone.
want to say anything before we get started here with this crew?
Well, I just wanted to thank Eric Haugen, our special correspondent, for organizing this amazing show. So,
Can't wait, Duke. Great group of guys here. I can't wait.
From the tangerine basement at his new house, right? What do you call that color?
I think believe it or not, it might be tangerine. I think you may have hit it on the head.
Has a tangerine look about it. Thank you, Eric, for pulling everything together. We are, of course, joined tonight by members of the 1988 Hopkins High School baseball team. HHS baseball legends, of course, how we do it. So welcome to the show, gentlemen. We'll let's just go around and you can just tell us where you live, what you're up to these days, and what position you played when you played for Hopkins High School. We'll start with Mr. Jim Keene.
Hey everyone, so good to see you all. Steiner down there in the corner. So I just recently, myself and my wife recently moved out to California. We got here about 3 months or so ago after 17 years in Colorado. And so this is a chance for us to be a little bit closer to our family. So my folks, after my two sisters got done with their school in Minnesota, they moved out to California. And so they've been here for a number of years. After they moved out here, we moved to Colorado, not related. And went back to Colorado. We're back here, so they live close, a couple miles away. My brother's out here. My wife's family lives out by Palm Springs, and then it's a chance for us to be a little bit. We have some businesses down here as well, some franchises that we run, and so that's a little bit closer for us as well. And then we have 3 kids, and so our oldest lives down in San Diego. Our middle son is now bartending in St. John. And our youngest one is a sophomore at TCU. So everybody's shotgunned out. So it's just myself, my wife, and a dog that barks incessantly. So that's it.
Great.
That's it.
Okay, let me see if I can remember. Third base.
Oh yeah, pardon me. Third base. Yeah, not particularly well, but
Oh, come on.
Third base.
Come on.
Shit, shut up. Please, not particularly well.
Sort of a Mike Schmidt style third base, right? Like a hit for power, hit for.
I think I was about as tall as Ron Say, so that's probably
that's a good one. And bull leg and a little bull-legged like the penguin too.
Penguin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit.
Ron Say, that's pretty close to perfect, I think.
That's our era. That's our guy. We love that guy.
excuse me, guys. Ramon can't figure out how to watch it on Facebook. Should we give him the Zoom link?
You know he's going to subvert the whole thing if he doesn't.
No, he will not. He'll behave.
All right, you can show it. You can.
Okay.
You can send it to him.
I'm going back.
He's like the Ed McMahon of the show. He just shows up and hangs out on the couch.
He's like the man under the. He's like the man under the seats, Chris Elliott in the old days. All right, Tony Cobb joining us from Northern California.
Everybody, Marnie, thank you. Jason, of course, Haugs, everybody, great to see you. Jim, Wandrei, God, I haven't seen you guys forever. I got lucky and saw Cory 2 summers ago. I got back to Minneapolis with my daughter, and a bunch of people got together at that social club. I can't remember what it's called, but some big venue. And so I got to see Cory and met my daughter. And then I was like, hey man, can we get out on Lake Minnetonka? My daughter had never held a fishing pole and everything. And he's like, yeah, man, I'll pick you up after work. And of course, like only Cory can, picks me up off the dock. We go fishing, hooks up my daughter, drops the line in the water, lands a fish in 7 seconds. We're out there for 45 minutes. He's with his stud young son who's sitting up on the front post. My daughter's trying to keep her tongue in her mouth while staring at his son. And then we went to dinner at either, what was it, Cory? Did we go to, was it Fletcher's or Menards or whatever it was, right on the water? And so, it's great to see Cory again, because I probably spent more time with Cory than anyone from Hopkins High School in my life growing up and everything. So it's good to see all these other people, Marnie and Jason, I saw the last one, but it's, see Cory, but to see Wandrei and to see Jim and Steiner and everybody, and thanks guys. So it's great to see everybody. I'm out in Northern California, have been up in the Bay Area for, I guess, about 17 years. After we graduated high school, I was in Southern California, down in the Valley, San Fernando Valley, lived in Venezuela for a couple of years. And so I'm up here. Lucky enough to meet my wonderful wife up here, and we have our daughter Elisa, who's a freshman. I played second base, I think primarily. John would slide in there from time to time at second on that team. I don't remember if I played outfield for Hopkins or not, but I might have caught occasionally, but I was pretty much, I think, a second baseman. So.
Got it. All right, John Wandrei.
Well, live in Minnetonka, married, 2 daughters, 17 and 15. Work for U.S. Bank in corporate payments, and was a catcher for the Hopkins baseball team. So
The quarterback of the
that's a
baseball
quick little
on the
snapshot.
field.
Yeah, it was fun. You're always involved in every play. You're interacting not only with the pitchers, but we probably had one of the most talented infields, from Keene and Steiner and Cobb and Matson. You never want to have a pass ball. You want to watch those guys turn too. And that was kind of play good defense and go from there.
That's fantastic. All right, Cory Gutenfelder.
Yeah, like Wandrei, I'm in Minnetonka as well. Been married just at our 20th anniversary last month.
Nice.
Have 3 kids, 14. The other one just turned 16, got a driver's license yesterday.
Ooh.
And another son who's 17. So I've got 2 sons on the outside and then the girl in the middle. So just a ton of fun, just lots of family life the last 20 years. And before that, floated around a little bit after high school. Lived on Lake Minnetonka for about 8 or 9 years with a couple of my buddies. And one of those was Dan Zimmerman, who obviously played with us, Little League and so forth all the way up through. I was kind of a backup infielder on this squad. I got beat out on every position I wanted to because we had such a good squad. So me and Sot spent a lot of time on the bench, but it was a lot of fun. It was a great crew of guys, and wouldn't have changed, anything about it other than, just maybe working a little harder. I just didn't know what I was doing back then. A little too much fun being had outside of baseball. So
No shame in that.
yeah.
All right, Todd Steiner, it's up to you now.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Marnie. Appreciate you putting this together. Great to see everybody. Live in Madison, been here for about 25 years, 2 kids. Daughter Hannah is a sophomore at UW. Max is a senior at Verona. Played shortstop. And now I've got my hands full with this building that we're putting together here.
So yeah, you've taken us out to I shouldn't say little, it looks pretty big, but you're building an outbuilding on your property out there of some sort. What are you going to store in that thing, Todd?
Yeah, so kind of a mixed blessing with COVID coming around is started a business about 20 years ago, had a whole bunch of employees. COVID goes around and they all go home. Quizzed them all over the last year and a half. None of them want to come back. So we stopped paying rent at the place that we were paying at for almost 20 years. And so now my business partner and I will come out to this place, which is a little south of Madison. If you know where Paoli is, it's a little south of that, Jason.
Sure.
Right by the Sugar River, right on the bike trail, but most of it's cold storage. The rest of it will be the office space that we're looking at here.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
Eric has prepared some insightful questions, so I'll let him, yes. Eric, who's the one who's got significant experience in sports journalism. We'll take it from here.
So, the Hopkins baseball program had more success, I think, than any other program when we were in high school, right? I mean, we were state runners up, and shouldn't say you. You guys were state runners up in '87, and then went to state again in '88. I'm curious, why did the program have so much success? Was it as simple as, Wando, you kind of alluded to it. We just, you had really good players, or was it a culture thing? Or, I mean, why were you so successful? Jim, why don't you take that one, Jim?
Oh, wow. Gosh, Eric, that's a pretty good question. I, coming in midstream. I mean, I came in as a junior and was just there for 2 years. But I will say, like, I think it's almost probably the perfect storm. If you look at, the gents on this call and some of the other folks that played, like, just lucky, like good athletes. I think, good baseball players, but also good athletes. I don't know that we had like if you looked up and down the lineup, like, hey, that person's just a stud player. Like, to me, Al was sort of that person, right? Todd, you were that person. Wade was that person. We didn't have like studs 1 through 9 kind of thing, but we had a bunch of great athletes who did a bunch of things really, really well. And then layered on that with, Dewey, who's sort of just kind of let our do our thing, I think. Is that the right way to frame that? And kind of not get in the way. Is that fair too? Good on so many different levels, but like, just kind of piecing all that together, I think sort of made for that perfect storm.
Yeah, Cobb, when you were on, when you did your solo show a couple of months ago, and if any of you guys haven't seen it, you should definitely catch it on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's a lot of people's favorite episode of all the, whatever, 80 they've done for KHOP so far. But, Cobb, you talked about Dewey a little bit on that show. I guess, what kind of coach was he, and what did he do to get the most out of you guys?
I think at that point, Jim said it right. Getting out of the way was the key. I think the key to that team too, and Jim was a part of it, because Jim, you played varsity only as a junior, if I remember right. One of the few on the team, on the '88 team that did. Was there another one? Does anybody know?
Well, Steiner started as a junior.
Steiner did.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to Todd. We need hours. I think I might talk about Todd every other week to somebody. He comes up in some story of greatness every other week for sure. I'm sure he still hasn't missed a ball yet, ever, never. But the team was really mature. I think it had a lot of maturity. It had a lot of guys that had played a lot of baseball, but also watched a lot of baseball. Like a guy like Wandrei, in addition to being so connected with all of his guys, the smile would loosen everybody up. But he also just had a way, I don't know how he did it, but the other team knew about Wandrei. And maybe it was just the subtle interactions, in the game that could put a team a little bit off. Of course, having Al out there on the hill never hurt. And just the confidence that this team played with going into that season. I was thinking about it the other day. I never felt any of the pressure of the '87 team. Like, for me, coming on that team, that '87 team was unreal. They could have easily won the state championship, and I never felt the pressure coming on that team. And it's by far the most favorite team I've ever been on. Not even close. Played on hundreds of teams after high school. That group of guys from top to bottom, like Jim said, everybody brought something. And where they hit in the order, and then where they played on defense. And then, like Cory said too, we had studs on the bench. I mean, Gutenfelder could hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball when he was 17. I mean, he just could, and we had guys come off the bench, and Sauter could come in and play left field and throw somebody out to stop a rally. I mean, so all those types of things coming together. And then, Dewey was at the end of his rope. I don't know, Duke, you might know, how many years did he coach after that? Not too many, right? So I could be wrong, but he was at the end. So,
I'm curious, when we've done these reunion shows, it always feels like there's sort of one coach that comes up that everybody speaks fondly of and really was a big influence. For the football guys, it was Ken McDonald, right? On the hockey show, it was Rogie Swenson, who a lot of us played for in Bantams, if you've ever heard that name. When the softball team was on, they talked about Bonnie Johnson. So, I'm curious, Wanda, was Dewey, was there that guy for this group? And if it was Dewey? Why? And if not, was it somebody else? Or, just kind of curious to see who you guys look back fondly on as a coach.
Well, to start with Dewey, I mean, I think that's kind of a hard spot to be in at high school, because if you look at everyone on this call, we all came from different, besides probably Cory and Tony playing together, growing up through the youth program. Steiner, where did you play in the youth program? Because you were a little golfer. But before that, were you over in
Sun Lake.
Glen Lake?
Yeah.
And I was Minnetonka Village Little League. So it's like all of a sudden when you meld all these different players together and they're coming from different places, and all of a sudden you're getting into high school, it's kind of a hard position to be in for a high school coach, to kind of narrow it down and be selective of, okay, here are the players I'm going to go through. I started off sophomore year, playing sophomore baseball, then JV, and was kind of a backup catcher in '87, pretty much a bullpen catcher for that state tournament team. But I would attribute, going back to coaches, I mean, I can name all my Little League coaches to Mickey Mantle, which I think prepared a lot of us for the high school team. Eric, I mean, we played together, and I think 12-year-olds. Your dad was a coach with Jerry Fisher. Your dad was barefoot the whole time. Jerry Fisher was smoking a cigar. Those are probably two of my favorite coaching, characters that, but I probably learned, quite a bit from your dad and Jerry Fisher, both very talented, coaches. And then going into Mickey Mantle, we had, Jeff Cummings' father, I think it was Dave Rooney. But it's just a bunch of different coaching experiences. And then I think going back to that, Dewey just kind of, all I remember about our high school years that Dewey, instilled was how to strike out with class, run back to the dugout. I was pretty good at that. And down angle swinging,
Down angle and no
Down
doubles.
angle. That's
No
all.
doubles.
Yeah.
Every team has kind of its unique blend of personalities. I'm curious, Cory, who's the funniest guy on the baseball team?
Yeah, he's probably the one who just said something a second ago. Cobb was always kind of the guy. Always had a story.
I'm shocked
Yeah.
by that, by the way.
Yeah. Between him and Sauter, I had more fun on that team just listening to those two guys. Cobb always had a story about either something in his past or something in, some crazy thing that happened in 1920s baseball or something that, it was always something. And, I played Little League with Cobb. We both started at, when we were 10 years old, we started playing down at MB Hagen and Hopkins, and he and I and Matson and Pearson all played down there from this squad. So we had a long baseball life together, and it was some of the best times.
There was a good group that came out of Hopkins. And it's funny, Wanda, you talked about how you had kids coming in from all these different Little Leagues, but I think that's part of the reason that you guys were so good was there was so many players. It's kind of like Edina hockey is right now. I mean, Sauter's kids play hockey in Edina, and I was emailing with him, and he said just the number of kids we have playing is crazy. And I just felt like we had a lot of really good talent, kind of coming in because we had all these youth baseball programs that were pretty good and pretty well run. Wanda, just real quick on Peter's dad. And, I don't know if any of you guys have been in touch with Pete lately. I'd love to hear how he's doing. But, Peter's dad was, he was a pretty mellow guy, except for with Peter. And I don't know if you guys remember, it's like, Peter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even playing against him, you guys probably heard that. Hey, Steiner, did you go to Maine to play college baseball before you transferred back to Wisconsin? Did you go to University of Maine for a year or two?
I did. Went out there my freshman year. And play baseball's not exactly what happened, but went out there. They had a really good team. So
Yeah.
got to put on a uniform, never saw the field, but that's pretty common for freshmen out there. then transferred to Madison, was going to play with those guys, kept the program, and then just kept playing with those guys in the Rock River and City League and all kinds of leagues around town.
I'm curious because, I live in New England now. I'm outside of Boston. And I had someone say to me, I've been up here, I guess, 10, 11 years now. And I had someone say to me that New Hampshire is the Alabama of New England. In Maine is the Mississippi of New England. And I suppose I should ask Pam Kropp about that because she lives in Maine. But what was it like going out to that part of the world?
It was great. I mean, after my freshman year, I had 8 gym classes and 2 math classes. So I was taking whitewater canoeing and winter survival and a whole bunch of just worldly classes. And it was after a year of that, I'm like, okay, time out. I got to take this a little bit more seriously. But no, it was good ball. It was a lot of fun, met a lot of great people. But one year I'd pretty much seen all that you can do in Bangor. So it was time to go back to UW.
They were a top 10 team in the country back then, weren't they, Stein?
Yeah, so
yeah,
really good.
The dude that was playing shortstop in front of me, I'm, carrying equipment and doing stuff. And it's one of the first games, and we practiced separate than what they did. And so that game I was carrying stuff around, the dude goes 4 for 4 with 4 dingers. And I'm just like, that's the shortstop. And he's a junior. And I'm like, great.
So if Cobber was the funniest player, funniest teammate, who was the most annoying teammate? Because I was the most annoying guy in the hockey team, and we talked about this a little bit on the hockey show and had a few laughs. But I'm curious, who was the guy that would kind of get, maybe give you the needle, but give it a little too hard?
Well, I've got a quick story, but Pearson for me was the most annoying because the dude was so talented. And he knew that I didn't like to lose. And we'd be playing a team that we knew we were going to beat, but he'd get bored on the mound after about 3 innings of striking everyone out. So he'd look back at me and walk the bases loaded just so that he could strike out the side and then laugh while he went in the dugout. And I'm just like, dude, that's just, you don't need to do that. Just knock it off.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's okay. So as a fan, and maybe Eric will remember this too, as a fan, you would be like, how do we ever lose a game? Al is a dominant pitcher. And it's cool to hear stuff like that from the inside, because apparently you guys all felt the same way we did when we were outside and didn't know much about the team. Did anybody have to hit against him in practice or anything like that? How dominant really was he?
Well, Cory and I both faced him in Little League, and he was throwing gas when he was 10. I mean, ridiculous gas. And he used to pitch with his dad after school. His dad, I'm not exaggerating, would catch him for 225 fastballs every single afternoon. And he was already throwing heat so much. And so Stein tells a great story. That's actually that's not even exaggerated what he's talking about. I was standing next to Stein more than one time where he walked the bases loaded in a game where we were up like 6-0 just to do it. And then but for me, because I was a little bit smaller and I'd known him since we were so young, he was still fucking with me physically when we were 15, 16, and 17. You turn your back on that guy and he'd pinch your ear so hard, he'd cut it with his fingernail. And before you could bitch about it, he'd punch you in the shoulder. And then you just look at him and go, I got nowhere to go with this guy. Nowhere to go. So, he was definitely the most.
He was so talented. Like, it's a thing especially in baseball, when you have a stud pitcher like that, you have a horse on the mound, you just walk out and you're like, we got a pretty good shot today. And he was a big reason why we were so successful. You guys remember him in the bus though, like in the back, like doing the ambulance. Like, I remember the first time I heard that, and I think it was junior year, and he's in the back, and he's making a siren sound, and like, what the hell's going on? Everybody's like, it's just Al in the back screwing around,
He did that at the Metrodome. He did that at the Metrodome, right? At an empty Metrodome when we played there on that Mickey Mantle team, I think it was, and we were in the empty Metrodome, and he did the siren, and you could hear it for like.
Yep.
John, what was it like catching him?
I had to wear a batting glove underneath. There's many times when he was out there pitching, and if we retired the that inning going up to bat, I couldn't feel my fingers in my catching hand. I mean, if you caught it in the palm, he had to, I mean, when we played Edina, I think that's when we probably had the most scouts at that game, because I think it was Peter Rather versus Pearson back then, the big stud for Edina. We always did very, very well against Edina. I can't remember what the score of that game was, but I know it was low scoring and all of that. But he was so funny. Like, he was a guy that, you know, for the other pitchers, a lot of times I was getting the signals from the coaches. With Pearson, we called our own game, and Pearson would kind of just ignore. Like, if I called something, he'd just shake it off, and I'm like, oh God, he's just going with high heat. And like, if I put my glove in the ground to throw over to first, all of a sudden he'd just lean back and just rifle a fastball coming in. I mean, he was just comical with his stuff. But a total prankster all the way through.
You know, you talk about pranksters, and I remember, and you guys, I'm curious to hear some of these stories, but the baseball team used to like to get into some mischief. You know, I remember hearing a story, and I can't remember who told this to me, but it was something about either like stealing a fire extinguisher or grabbing a fire extinguisher from your parents' house and like driving around downtown Hopkins and like going to the Burger King drive-through and like spraying the person behind the counter. Is this a true story? And like, what kind of fun stuff did you guys do after hours to kind of, you know, bond as a team and keep it loose?
I might have been the guilty party on that one. But I only say that because the statute limitations are running.
Yeah.
So that's probably fair. No, I did some of that goofing around with Brian Olsen a little bit, and so probably not one of my finest moments, but it was it was sophomoric at best, but it was pretty fun. I think I don't know about you guys, but like the summers, I think amongst, like, I wasn't there for sophomore to junior year, but like junior to senior year, all kind of stuff, right? All kind of shenanigans, I think, with this group all the way together.
Well, that's funny you bring up these shenanigans, Eric and Jim, because I have a question from Ramon Reyna, who is watching on Facebook. Jim, did you set up Ramon with Dennis Roof in his office?
With what?
Dennis Roof.
Wasn't he wasn't he the vice principal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
disciplinarian.
Yeah,
Uh-oh, look at the face.
So wait, what was the question?
The question is from Ramon. Jim, did you set me up in Dennis Roof's office your senior year over a royal pass?
Gosh, not that I remember, but you know, honestly, Marnie, I don't know what I had for breakfast, so maybe.
Okay.
I'm not
Fair
sure. Nothing again that I would probably, if I did, it probably wasn't one of my finer moments, but I do not recall. So at which point I would plead the fifth, because I purely don't know.
In the back.
Do not want to incriminate myself.
Fair enough.
So-
Thank you.
When we had Cobb on, we of course talked about the and I always mix it up. I think it's sectionals, right? You got to win sectionals to go to state in Minnesota. Speaking of Edina, win over Edina at Parade Stadium. Many of us were at that game. It was very fun. Cobber told us how it all went down at the end. Steiner, do you have a recollection of this? And do you have a side of this story that you play over in your head, how that game finished?
I don't remember it at all, quite frankly.
No,
I don't.
because
We were
Cobber
so
tells a
used to
great
winning.
story. Does anybody else have their version?
Just another
that they wanna
W.
share?
Yeah, it's just another W.
Wandrei, do you remember what
Was it
happened
the-
to you at the end?
Was it the bunt?
There you
I'm
go.
trying to remember. Like, I'm kind of the same. Like, the games all sort of run together at this point. But was that the bunt game or something?
Suicide
We
squeeze.
got one down.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
He squeezed Soderholm off of I think Tommy Nevers was
Really?
pitching for Edina. Yeah.
Pretty
And he was
decent
good
game.
too,
It sent
right?
us to the state tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another day at the office for, but for Steiner, it was old hat, right? Because he had started on the team that had gone all the way to the state championship game the year before.
You just expect to win.
Well,
Sure.
Stein, it was your idea. They brought in Nevers in relief, and what was he, Duke? A year younger than us,
Two,
right?
I
But
think.
No,
super
two or
stud from
three,
Edina,
yeah.
though, right? And he,
Yeah.
right? They brought him in, and so Dewey brought me up. I was up, and Sauter was at third, and Stein was. I think Steiner might have been on deck. I think he hit number 2 in that order, and so Stein, it was your idea. You came up. He said, "Why don't we just squeeze this run in?"
Yeah, end the thing
We
right
went.
now.
Dewey went, "Yeah, let's do it." So, yeah, I just said, "I'll swing as hard as I can on the first pitch. Just swing as hard as I can." And so, yeah, just another W. There you
Yep.
go.
Get a hockey player on the mound, they can't move.
Right.
Well,
Needs
Tom
a-
Nevers, he ended up being a first-round draft pick, I think of, God, I want to say St. Louis, and signed for God knows how much money. And he never made it to the major leagues. He made it as high as AAA, I think.
He was a first round
He's
draft
the,
pick.
I think he was,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Holy shit.
You
He's
should
the head
Google
coach.
it, but I think he was. What's that, John?
He's now the head coach at Edina.
Really?
For the high school team.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I think the last maybe 2 or 3 years.
Well, because Hopkins baseball is still pretty good, isn't it? Like, did I see somewhere they went to the state, Cory and John, I'm guessing you have kids in Hopkins schools, didn't they? They went to the state tournament last year, didn't they?
I think it was 3 years ago. And
Okay.
they play the state now at where the Saints play, Midway Stadium in
Oh, cool.
St. Paul. Yep.
So
Yeah, they ended up
it's
losing.
always fun to beat Edina in anything, but
Yeah.
did you guys have other rivalries, other teams that you hated, like you desperately wanted to beat them, or a guy on another team that you desperately wanted to make a fool out of? Does anybody remember?
There was a guy from St. Louis Park named John Nyan that I started playing against when he was 11 or 12, and he was 30 pounds heavier than everyone else, and he could hit everything. I couldn't stand him. He played all the way through high school. He was always a tough out, and I always loved stomping St. Louis Park. I just don't remember why, other than that dude.
I always thought the conference was pretty strong too. So like, I think that just naturally forms rivalries. I know I always like beating Minnetonka, but Tony, to your point, like St. Louis Park was always a good win if you can get that one too. Like it was just good baseball, you know?
It was Minnetonka. Do you remember those clowns when they would do the invisible ball infield to warm up? It's like,
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to put 10 runs on you guys just for that stupid act that you just went through.
You mean
Stein would.
they'd mime infield practice?
Yeah,
Yes.
the coach would throw up a ball and he'd fake hit at the guy at third, would fake throw it to first. They do their entire warm up without a ball.
Stein, I told that story on Sunday at a girls softball game, believe it or not.
Dumbest thing I've ever seen in my whole
Have you
life. I'm like,
ever
I can't wait till this game starts so we can just mop the floor with you.
Has anyone ever seen? I'm Cobber. I'm stunned. I never heard that from you in high school. That story from you in high school. But has anyone ever seen that anywhere else before?
No, not me.
No,
I
and
have
there's
one
good
other time.
reason. It shouldn't be done.
Yeah,
It's
well, no
terrible.
shit, yeah.
It's terrible.
Oh
And Todd, I remember you said in the dugout.
Stein,
just
that
like,
was Minnetonka High
you
School
were
that
pissed.
did that?
Yeah, I was. I'm like, I have a problem with this. Let's start the game.
Yeah, you were pissed.
Oh, that's
You were
great.
pissed. I remember.
We've talked on a couple of the shows about some funny little league stories. I think when we were on with Cobber, we talked about Cobber dated Patty Hegre in high school. There's that sort of classic story in Stein. You probably remember this from the Glen Lake Little League, where Patty took Russ Moser yard, and poor Russ started crying on the mound as Patty's doing her home run trot. I'm curious for maybe you guys that Wando, I don't know if there's anything you remember from MVLL. I actually have a good MVLL story, but before I hear that, Cobber, Cory, any kind of funny Hopkins Little League stories that will make us laugh a little?
I don't know if funny is the case. There's a coach that I had. There was a guy, I don't know, he's 1 or 2 years older than us, named Wade Rabb, and his dad coached Chuck Rabb. And he was the first really hardcore, intense coach I had. Was played a big role in me going forward. As far as anything funny goes, I don't know. I do remember actually, it's how much of a geek I am, and maybe commentary on all of my life since Little League leading up to this. I still remember the first out I ever recorded at second base in Little League. I probably had a little poop in my pants because I was so nervous, but it was Gutenfelder. Actually, Gutenfelder ripped a short hop line drive at me. It actually hit the instep of my foot, made it look like it hit my glove, and I picked it up and recorded it. So that and Wade Matson, Stuart Limborg, and Pearson all being on the same Little League team when they were 12 was daunting, to say the least.
So Flounder sent this, there's no way this is going to work, but Flounder sent a text to a group of us, and it was from Glen Lake Little League.
Sweet.
And it's like the optimists and stuff. But if I were to read the names on this, like John Childs, Matt Miller, Wade Matson, Tony Serino, Sean Doherty, Jeff Wyman, Jason Crow, Brian Munkowitz, Tim Saprell, Bob Allendorf. I mean, it's John Dale. It's just a who's who of kind of the up and coming Glen Lake players. I'm like, holy cow, we all made it through that.
Hey, John, were
The
you
Little Leagues, I was just going to say something about the Little Leagues, because like, if you have kids now who play Little League baseball, like the house league is like nothing. Like they try to churn you through the house league as fast as you can. So the all-star team can get involved in tournament play and stuff. And the kids who play on the all-star team don't really care about their house teams and stuff. But when we played the Glen Lake Little League, you guys in Minnetonka, you guys in Hopkins, that was it, man. That was big, fun, and competitive. And we knew everything about the other team. And I'm just going to give my quick Little League fun story. We were playing against Troy Brocker, right? Not Todd,
Yeah.
Troy Brocker, right? You're ahead of us.
Right.
His dad was the coach. Troy was a very good ball player as a kid. And his dad was a hothead. And our coach was Jim Saprell, Tim's dad, who was a hilarious guy and hated hotheads and hated guys who took Little League too seriously. And we knew that Troy liked to dance around when he was on first base, get a good lead, dance around over there. So we pulled the hidden ball trick on him deliberately to get his dad red-faced, fuming out of the dugout. And that's exactly what happened. It was hilarious. It was Jim Saprell set this up just so probably I would have a story to tell as a 51-year-old guy many years later about that trick. But
You should thank him for that. I'm sure you have, but you should thank him for that.
Yeah.
John, were you there? And I think we would have been 8 or 9 years old. Were you there down at MVLL the night that the two dads got in a fist fight at a T-ball game over umpiring? Or did you ever hear that story?
Yeah, I do remember that a little bit. What do you remember?
It's funny. Well, because my dad was president of MVLL for a couple of years back then. So like that was what our family did during the summer, right? Like we just go down there. My mom would run the concession stand and we just run around and watch games and play catch or whatever. But I do remember that night there was 3 T-ball games. And I think I had like moved up to, farm or whatever the next league was. I was like, I'm not going down there to watch T-ball, forget it. Well, then and I think my two, Leaf and Dane had both gone down. So they come home and say, oh my God, you couldn't believe it. Mr. So-and-so got in a fist fight. And I know who the dads were, and I'm gonna not give the names to protect their sons.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, so-and-so got in a fist fight. And I was just like, I was so bummed that I had, because you're 8 years old, you want to rubberneck at that kind of stuff. And it was funny because I remember, and I don't know what it's like for you guys when if your dads are still alive, you like to go home for the holidays or you get together with your dads. That's all my dad ever wants to talk about is like when we were playing sports as a kid. It's and it's fun, right? But I remember him telling me, because like that story's come up within the last 5 years probably. He said, I said to both of them, you've got to write a letter of apology to whoever, if you ever want to be involved in this Little League again. And one of the dads did it and one of the dads didn't. And it's funny because the dad who didn't, his kid, like always had a problem with me, like through the rest of like the next, whatever, 8 or 9 years of school. Seriously, like, and I didn't know him that well, but we were on a couple teams together, and he'd always be like making comments under his breath. I don't know, John, do you remember who was involved in that? The dads or not?
I'll have to follow up with you offline. Here.
Okay, yeah,
I'd like to
absolutely.
know.
I will email you that. But yeah, God, that was, like I said, that was the only other thing I remember is, and I don't know, I wish Hockett was on here because I think he played 13-year-old with us. But I remember, Charlie Giostra was, Charlie was kind of a character. And this was, again, 13-year-old. And I remember he was riding Al so hard, like just brutal. It was like a Saturday morning game. And it's funny because my dad coached us that year. And I'm surprised he must not have been there. He must have been coaching Lee for Dan or something, because he would have said, hey, cut it out. But like literally Josper rode him for like 2 innings nonstop. Like, just Pearson, you suck, but like funny, right? Like Charlie was. And I just remember kind of just sitting on the bench, just, laughing. And Al was walking the bases loaded. I can't remember if he got out of it or not. But yeah, those were always fun summers. I will say that. So did your, like, Cory, did your boys play baseball? Did they play Little League baseball?
Yeah, my oldest made it till probably through most of Little League, and then I think it was right around 7th grade. It was kind of a choice. He was also into soccer, and he had a lot of really good friends in the soccer squad, so he chose soccer over baseball. At that point, it started. He started playing travel soccer, and it became a all year long commitment pretty much to that team. So he only made it a few years. I coached his team first few years. Did the same thing with my youngest son. Coached a couple of years. I think, and then he only made it a few years, and then he kind of just decided that wasn't for him. So I was kind of bummed about that, but my saving grace is my 16-year-old daughter's a travel softball player. She's a fast pitch softball player, and she pitched all the way up until a couple of years ago. And now she's like, we were just in St. Louis, and we were in Kansas City, and all over this, country, basically this last summer. She's on a really good squad. So wow, that's my connection with the game still. And it's, it's just as fun as watching baseball for me. So it's all good.
Yeah, you should connect with Hockett. His daughter, Sid, up in Maple Grove, she signed, I think she signed with St. Thomas. I think she's going to be part of St. Thomas's program as they move up to D1. But I get the sense, and trust me, a big part of my company's business is sort of tied to the health of baseball. And it really feels, and Cobb, you and I texted back and forth with this a little bit. It feels like, to some sense, baseball, I don't want to say it's dying amongst kids, but it's just kids are not as into baseball, certainly nowhere near to the level they were that when we were growing up.
Steiner, does Max play? Has Max played baseball, or did he stop, or does he still?
No, he's still playing. Started at shortstop as a junior. He'll start at shortstop as a senior. Pitches. Yeah, he's still playing, and just like Cory, we're chasing him all over the country. So plays the travel ball in the summer and all that fun stuff.
You gonna play in college?
Yeah, he's got a lot of offers right now, and we're just debating the yield. Do you go play at a D3, D2, smaller school, or do you go to something like UW, which is the only Big Ten team without a baseball team, and play on their club team, which does play other D1 teams? So I'm steering him hard to go play for the club team, because I go out and watch those guys, and they're throwing a football on the side there, not taking it seriously. But meanwhile, it's 10-0 over Marquette, and I'm reading the Twitter feed as I'm watching it, and they're hilarious. It'll be serious at the beginning. It'll be like UW Madison 1, Marquette 0. And then the second inning, it'll be women's hockey school 3, Marquette 0. And by the fourth inning, it's vodka, lime, and soda 7, Marquette 0. And so it's just a really low key way to play baseball. And you can tell these guys really love it and really enjoy it. So I'm trying to stay out of it and give them the pros and cons of each side.
How big is he?
He's like 6'4".
Is he play shortstop?
Yep.
Is he going to get drafted?
Don't know. Doubtful. Again, that'll probably see what happens this senior season and then see where he ends up going to school. But we'll figure those things out as we go.
Max has the good fortune of
Todd, you know
having
how?
Max has the good fortune of having one parent who is a D1 college athlete and then Todd,
Yeah, exactly.
the other side. So he's doing pretty good in the genealogy.
Might have hit 450, Todd. You know how?
Yeah, well, it's not the 450. It's the low 90s that he can pitch at that I'm like, okay, that's different.
That's
Does he need an agent? I'm thinking about changing careers. Does he need an agent?
Well,
I could sell the Steiner brand. We know this.
yeah, we know this. This we know.
You can't teach 6'4" and you can't teach 90s.
Yeah,
I know.
teach any of
I
that.
know.
exactly. The only thing is I should have put the ball in his left hand and got that.
And
That's
90s
great,
left looks different also too.
Yeah. But yeah, he's still playing, still enjoying it. They'll have a good team this year.
That's great.
Yeah,
Verona High
that's great.
School, right? That's their quality baseball team.
Yeah.
They like to talk a little bit. That was always my experience at Verona games, is that they talk a little bit.
Yeah, they're
chirping.
little chirping, a little Matt Miller built into a lot of those players, maybe a little bit of the wrong side of the tracks, a la Hopkins, where,
Right.
you know, we're not necessarily we're not the Edina school in our league, that's for sure.
Little
Um,
Milty. Little
Were any
Milty.
of you, do any of you have good umpiring stories? That's often a job that baseball players have during the summer. They ump Little League or whatever. Anybody ever run into a irascible coach or something like that? Have to
broke
eject
up.
somebody?
Speaking of good fistfights at a Little League game, I umpired, I think, 1,500 Little League games in Encino and Sherman Oaks and Tarzana in my 20s.
What?
And one time I had two dads on the opposite side, and they were getting after it. And these were like minor league players, like 8, 9, 10. But the money was good. I mean, I had steel-toed shoes, all decked out the whole day. Two base umpires, immaculate fields, and these two just alpha jag-off dads barking at each other. And all of a sudden, they both come into each other's dugouts because they're going to meet on the field. And sure enough, they met on the field. All players are on the field in between home plate and the mound. Squared off. I had to get into the middle of it. One guy threw a punch. He hit my mask, which was in my hand. He started screaming because his hand was all jacked up. The other guy ran at him while he was attending to his hand. And so that was an interesting umpiring story, but I loved umpiring and I did it for a long time. It was really, really great. Money was really good too at that time, but so that was my good umpiring story.
Before I moved to Minnesota, I went to my other high school and we had I think it was my freshman year. In fact, yeah, freshman year. And our coach was a graduate of that same high school. He ended up throwing the shot put at Alabama. He was in an all CIF, whatever football player, like 6'5", big lineman or whatever. So anyway, he goes off to Alabama, does his thing, comes back and coaches football and baseball. So he's my coach freshman year, and we're playing Bishop Montgomery, which is a school out, Catholic school outside of LA. And this umpire, starts getting into it with the coach, and he runs our coach. Like in the first inning, and this guy, his face, I'm not kidding you, like Steiner, like this, the color red of your jacket was like, I thought a vein was going to come out. He took every bat out of the bat rack, threw it onto the field. And here's this Hercules of a guy. We're all sitting in the dugout like, you've got to be shitting me. Like it was unbelievable. And that was my first experience of like, holy cow. Like that was different, I'm glad Dewey never did that, although I don't know that he could have like lifted all those bats like at the same time, But,
One time.
Are any of you, I don't know if we know if Dwayne Welch is still with us. Did any of you stay in touch with him after high school? Was he somebody who thought, because the women I'll talk about, are they still like they run into Bonnie Johnson and some of them have maintained relationships with her. But was that the case for any of you and Dwayne? Seems
Wandrei?
like Wandrei.
No, I think maybe Conley would have been the only gone fishing with him, probably. I know he was a big fisherman. Probably Miller.
Funny.
Otherwise, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's interesting.
How old do you think Dewey was when we were 18, guys? 60?
Oh,
At
man.
least.
Right? At least,
Oh,
right?
That's a good question, right?
He was a
Hell,
teacher
he
at the
was- wasn't
school,
he-
right? He was some sort of high school teacher.
Yeah.
maybe?
What did he teach?
Social studies?
Really?
Yeah, history, social studies. Yeah.
Well, Jason,
But Tony-
wasn't he married to Mrs. Welch, like the Quiz Bowl?
Really?
Yeah,
What?
weren't they? I thought they were married.
That never occurred to me until you just said it right now, that
I-
teachers named
maybe-
Welch were married, but that would have been.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they were. Not that you. Not. I mean, I don't know if Mrs. Welch ever showed up to your baseball games. Maybe that would have been the tell or not. I honestly, I can't remember.
That's pretty
Anyway,
good. Some of the earlier statements.
I think
where
you're right
it
though,
was-
Tony, because it wasn't. Oh, sorry, Todd. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on, son.
there was just such a huge age gap, and we all knew how to play ball. I don't really know that we ever listened to him. He said things over there and did some things, but if we were going to steal, we were going to steal. If we were going to, and maybe that was part of why we never made that connection, because we're like, okay, Dewey, we got you.
What about A-Dub?
One of those-
You remember A-Dub? I only remember him because I had him for science. Mr. Wahutka, right? He was an assistant coach on the baseball team.
Yeah, he was built.
Tell us about him. What was it? So he was younger, right? He would have probably connected with you guys on some level. Wandrey's laughing. What do you got?
Well, no, he was our JV coach too, wasn't he,
Yep.
Tony?
And then Ronholm was the sophomore coach, right?
Yeah, Ronholm was our sophomore coach. He could hit the fungal bat pretty well. Ronholm was a great sophomore coach. Wahutka, I do remember playing with him, and then I think there was some other assistant coach our senior year that was the JV coach then.
Okay.
I can't remember that guy's name.
So,
I
guys,
know Ronholm had to be an assistant on the varsity because I know he coached first base
I think he was.
Yeah,
on that team. Definitely coached first base on that team. So I don't remember. There was another guy too. You guys might remember him. He was even younger than A-Dub. A guy, I think his name was like Joe Komarek or something like that.
yeah.
A hitting
Yeah,
coach,
Joe-
and he had played at like some Wisconsin D3 team. They won like the D3 World Series like 2 years before he came to Hopkins. So he was still soaking wet with all of that, and we got to hear about all that while he taught us. So
I think he ended up coaching, I believe, at one of the high schools. I thought he
Did
coached
he?
one of the high schools. And Tony, you were talking about Fletcher's. He actually got me one of my first jobs when I came back from college, and I was as you can tell, I was a bouncer at Lord
Yeah.
Fletcher's for a
I can
summer,
see that.
because you could tell with the build and stuff, right?
Right.
And
Well, you're
I'll
really
never
tall,
forget.
too.
Right, I was 5'2", and so he got me my first job, and I'll never forget one night. Like you guys probably feel this now, right? You grab your drink and you jump on the boat, and I was the guy that told people they couldn't get on the boat, and so I remember one night, these guys come out of the bar, and I'm like, hey guys, like can't take the beers out on the boat. And they're like, yeah. And they keep walking. I'm like, no, fellas, like, no kidding. You can't take the beers out. And they're like, okay. And so I like stop them, and one of them just like puts their hand right on my forehead, and I go home with like this welt. My dad's like, hey, how's work? I'm like, yep, pretty good. Just out, just boom, knocks me out. I'm like, what the hell? So I thank Joe
Jim
Comrack
Keen.
for that. What's that?
Jim Keen. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey
So
guys,
that was my Joe
hey
Conrad
guys,
story.
you can't take those. Hey guys, you can't take those beers out. Hey guys, no, seriously. Hey guys.
Exactly. Hey, not kidding. Hey, you. Rat.
So
That's right, Tony, right there.
one of the things we've talked about we talked about a little bit, I think, on the football show is, if you ever want to see a group of teenage boys cry their eyes out, go into the locker room after their season ends when they get eliminated from the playoffs, especially the seniors. And that 87 team was so close to, winning the state tournament, and obviously it ended, pretty, it ended in a very disappointing manner. I'm curious, I think John, Steiner, Keen, you guys were in that locker room. Was that just an absolute, was there just waterworks up and down, or were people kind of like, we came in second in the state. It was a pretty good run. Good night, kiddo. Love you. Yeah. Yes, I am. We're still recording, Karina. Sorry. Just saying good night to my daughter.
I'll share what
Steiner,
I remember. I remember being in there, and it was. I think we kind of thought at some point we belonged, and at some point we sort of expected to win. And I think the disappointment coming out of that was like, that blows and that sucks, and that one cut. Like that one cut pretty hard, and I think when you get that close and you make the run like we made, there's a lot of there's some tears there, and I think for especially being juniors, when you see seniors sort of going out and knowing that's their final game, it's as a younger kid or as a junior, you're thinking to yourself, daggone, that you don't want it to end that way, but that one was tough. That one was really tough, and I think that's one that you don't forget often. And frankly, I think that's one of the things that helped us the following season, which is, hey, we don't want to just get to the doorstep. We want to kick that thing in, So it was tough. That was a tough one. I don't know about Todd, John, you guys, but I remember that pretty well.
Yeah, it sucks.
No,
It
go ahead,
sucks.
Steiner.
There's no easy way to say it. At the end of the season, there's going to be one team left and everybody else loses, but we should have won in 87 and then had that chip on our shoulder that we should get it done in 88. And so all of a sudden the game's over. And I don't know if it was as much of waterworks as it was in 88 as it was to 87, because maybe 88 was a bit more of a shock. We just expected to go on and win. And then all of a sudden 7 innings are over and that's it.
Yeah, we got smoked in
say,
that first game. It was never close.
Yeah.
We got smoked.
Going back to 87, though, that was devastating because it's like we're all juniors, and it's like here are these seniors, that we're all good friends with from growing up. Whether it's I grew up next to Miller and Scott Jameson, and then you have Dan Reed, Conley, all those guys, that Brocker was on the team. Russell, all those guys, you just feel devastated for them, but we know that we have like another year, but it's just devastating watching those guys, go through that. It comes to an end. Our senior year, yeah, that was a tough one to swallow.
Keelan is here
Especially
watching.
going against those guys. Yep, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Keelan is here watching, and so you should check the comments after the show on Facebook if you want.
Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to take it into it's kind of a dark place there. I just, like I said, and obviously I didn't play baseball, but I remember when when we lost to, I think it was YZ at the end of our hockey season. Like I cried for so long. At one point, Penn Delaney walked up to me and said, "Are you okay?" And I just said, "Yeah, Pat, I'm just, and Pat was Joe Cool. I don't think, Pat was just like, yeah, whatever. But Pat was like, seriously, man, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just kind of sad it's over. So yeah, it's it's a special time in your life, right? And when you realize it's over, it's kind of like, wow, it's it's really over, And
then you have a chance to do it again, right? So you end up playing, and it's like, wait, I want to go do that again. I want to go be 18 and screw around and do all that stuff, and you realize you can't do it,
Although Jim, you still play baseball, right, Jim?
I do. Not since I moved out here. I play some old man baseball. It's not pretty. You guys you guys would laugh.
What about any of you other guys? Baseball, softball, anything?
I still play softball. I played. The highlight of my softball career was speaking of Tommy Nevers, he played in our softball league for 3 or 4 years. It's a men's D league at Van Valkenburg in Edina. I played there for like 25 years now, at least. And back in probably I'd say mid 2000s, we played against the East and decided to put a team together, and Nevers and a bunch of his D1 college football buddies were on it. And they would beat us every game in the season. And it came down to us and them multiple times in the championship games while they were in the league. And we always had their number in the championship game. And the highlight of my career was probably my softball career, that is, was throwing Nevers out at second to end the game for the victory for us. And it was one of those deals where I played third. I was the only guy dumb enough to risk my life every Thursday night to do it. And one of their guys hit just an absolute bullet down the line. And I somehow got it in my glove and from my knees threw Nevers out at 2. And he walks by me as we were shaking hands after. He's like, yeah, sure, you make that play. And you don't make, he's like, giving me crap because I don't make the easy ones, but I'll make that one. So that was the fun thing for me. But softball, I barely play anymore. I always tell that we have kids playing now where I used to play. And I just kind of go along for the ride and do some hitting once in a while. It's pretty fun though still.
No other softball guys out there? Nobody else?
I played fast pitch softball in LA for like 10 years.
How's that?
Oh, it was great. Played B-level fast pitch, and we had an incredible pitcher. He was a painter for the studios. And everybody else, we had a bail bonds company, like literally Bad News Bears. We had a bail bonds company as our sponsor. We had the uniforms and everything. And this guy would show up, he'd put his jersey on, he'd wear just jeans and t-shirt, wear a baseball cap kind of off to the side. He was a painter on the studios, have a cigarette hanging out of the corner of his mouth. He could throw 5 pitches, and I got to catch, so I got to call the game. I caught him for like 6 seasons. We were awesome. We were basically unbeatable, you couldn't beat us. Well, have a beer, Tone. Sorry, I slurred that last one there.
I didn't even know they have fast pitch. That's pretty cool. That can't be easy.
It's great. It's a great game. It's a great game. I couldn't play it now. I can't do anything now. Get out of bed.
Apparently the participation in men's fast pitch is just dropping year after year because there's just nobody pitching anymore. Nobody grows up thinking they're going to be a fast pitch softball pitcher.
You know what's harder than trying to pitch fast pitch softball? Trying to teach a young girl to pitch fast pitch softball. That's when you have no idea what the hell you're doing, trying to pitch fast pitch softball and then try to teach it. It's really hard.
Yeah. Sounds like
that's the whole thing now. Like they have their own teachers and their own coaches and all this stuff. Just like the guys, but our daughter played fast pitch and she was a good little player, and that's fun to watch. Like that's uber competitive too. Go try and hit a high school stud fastball pitch. I don't want any part of that. They can't do it. It's crazy.
It's a flawed game. I think the game's stupid the way it's played. It's flawed completely. But you're right. The competitive nature of it is insane. But
how would you change it, Cobb? How would you change it?
I would probably make if you're gonna play it, like if you're over 15 years old, I would probably push the mound back 2 more feet. You believe in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, they used to pitch from 40 feet at college, literally unhittable at 40 feet. Now they're at 43 feet. So I'd probably go to 46 feet. And that's probably the one thing I would do, just push the mound back just a little bit.
I invite you guys to go back and watch it when we talk to the women, because they, Heather Thorson, I think, still holds the record in MIAC for the highest batting average ever. She batted like .875 her senior year, and it's because she was just a slap hitter, and her own dad was like, that's no way to play the game, and she setting these records, like, I don't believe in it.
I think Heather got recruited by I think she had already committed to Gustavus, but I think like late in her senior year, I remember her, because Heather and I grew up in the same neighborhood playing like t-ball and little league together. She got recruited by Oklahoma, I think, at one point, but
really?
she had,
wow.
they at least reached out to her. And I think she was like, listen, I like Minnesota. I'm going to Gustavus. I'm going to play tennis too. So, thanks, but no thanks.
Well, this is a good
Yeah,
time
Heather was a
to,
great ball player.
Yeah.
this is a good time to remind everyone that you can watch all the past episodes of KHOP88 on our YouTube channel. This is episode 74. We are clearing into the third year of KHOP88.
Wow.
Jason, do you want to know what's coming up?
Yeah, I was just about to say, Marnie, who's coming up on some future
Sure.
shows?
Episode 75 next week is, help me out with the pronunciation, Brad Norla,
Brad Norla, teacher, Mr. Norla.
Mm.
Yeah.
the art teacher. We are looking for other ideas of living staff members to interview with because we've been having so much fun. Episode 76, Monica Gillen. We have Melanie Arndt and Michelle Grover are nailing down a date. They're going to come on together. December 7th, Dr. Kim Cappings from Utah or Idaho. Forgive me, Kim. December 14th, the band. It is going to be bigger than any of you sports teams have ever seen. And then
This is the marching band?
We didn't really march. It was just band.
Yeah, Jason, are you the host? Are you a host of that, Jason, or do you move into participant mode for that?
I haven't had anything
How
to
are you
do
gonna
with it.
handle that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Jason's the leader. And then Deborah Hans Campbell will close out 2021 and we're starting to book 2022.
You guys are amazing. Thank you again for doing it. It's awesome. It's awesome.
And so also, for those of you who don't remember, we have a Google map of the cities where our guests live, not your street addresses. So I'll post the link so you can see everyone who's been on the show.
It's awesome.
That's it.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun to see you guys and check in with you and hear your old stories. That was fun for us in high school to be able to follow you guys in the spring and have something to do when it was nice outside, to go out and back of the high school and watch the baseball team play or go to Parade Stadium. It's fun. Eric, thank you very much for the preparation and the recruitment.
Way to go, Duke.
Right?
Great to see everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Seriously.
Good to see everyone.
Good to
Likewise.
see everybody,
Good
guys.
seeing y'all.
Thank
We'll
you,
see
guys.
everybody else next Tuesday night.
Tuesday
here in
night,
Facebook
I'll be
Live.
there. Adios. Be safe.
Well, guys.
K-Hop, you say.
Bye.
See y'all.